There have been this noticeable distinction between the traditional Labour Party and the Obidients leading into the election, and even after the election it still persists. What would be your advice to Labour Party to ensure that this distinction is bridged?
After the presidential election, there was a lot of misunderstanding all over the country. Some people claim they're Obidients, but they're not Labour Party people. And it's a misconception, and it's lack of education. I had expected, and in fact, to a large extent, the fault of some of us who are elders, who have been members of the Labour Party for some considerable number of years. I do believe that we failed totally in ensuring that the Obidients understand the concept of labor movement and obedience, the relationship. We ought to have told them that Obidients and the Labour Party are one vehicle, and P2B is the driver. And if you believe in the philosophy and politics of P2B, enter that vehicle called Obedient movement, which is enshrined in Labour Party, and let P2B drive it. We failed, and that's why we had issues in most states. And it gave rise to also some molds to be planted in our midst. Some of us went on air to say that, well, we're obedient, but we're not members of Labour Party. We're going to vote for XYZ party. And it was too late for us to start countering it. Hence, we kept quiet. Rather than rock the boat at that point, we let things slide. And hopefully, we will try and solve the problem.
Well, it is one thing to get the Obidients to understand the theory, the doctrine of being one and the same with the Labour Party. But how willing, how disposed is the traditional Labour Party to accommodate, to make the Obidients find a home in the Labour Party?
They have no choice. I've been in Delta for about a week, and my teaching, my preaching is that the youth who embody the obedient movement should permeate the Labour Party. Bring your philosophy and doctrine into the Labour Party. That's the only way. You cannot expect Labour Party that has been indoctrinated by the old thinking and ideology to yield so easily. But we have spoken to them, allow fair competition, and I've spoken to some obedient members here in Delta State. I say, the only way you can do it is become members of the, active members of the party. Go and register, so that when the time of Congress comes, participate. Bring your knowledge and intelligence to bear on the party. If you desire that change, be the change. You cannot become a movement only. I recall in the 50s, I was a member of the Zikis youth movement. We played football at Zikis Athletic Club in Yaba. Some people played tennis, some went into boxing. We were all members of that movement. But ultimately, every one of us belonged to NCNC. That is the preaching we want now. It's taking shape. It's not going to be easy, but we're preaching. And we'll continue to do that. Let the Obidients be part of that vehicle that has been created. It's a train, it's moving. P2B is the arrowhead, he's the one driving. And if you believe in his philosophy and his doctrine, join that train. Don't be part of the train, no, it's not going to work. It's not a question of finding a home in Labour Party, it's a question of exposing themselves to the same old tradition of the old parties. If you resist the attempt by Obidients to become members, active participants in the Labour Party, they move. But I doubt if that will come to bear, because we have all come to be one family, Obidients and Labour Party. That's the preaching now. I said earlier on that P2B is the driver, and we're all in the same vehicle, the train that embodies the philosophy and doctrine of P2B. We're all in that train. You cannot be in one coach and say, well, when we get there, once P2B drops off, we're going off. No. The train is an embodiment of a number of coaches which are pulling towards this one direction. Coach number 1, coach number 2, coach number 3, up to coach number 80, if you like. P2B is driving it. and we're all moving toward direction. And if we must achieve that objective, we must all believe in the same theory and the same goal. So my concern and my teaching, I've been in Delta for, like I said earlier on, for about a week or so. And what I've told people that I've encountered is, please go and join the Labour Party. Be that change, effect that change. Well, Labour Party has been part of the old system. They probably practice the same old political ideologies of old, or ideas of old, not ideology, because most of them lack ideology, but ideas of old. And we're trying to change that. You can see that what Peter brought during this campaign and election is a novel ideas. Ideas where we didn't give money. There was organic love in the movement. We want to entrench that and move it forward. It's not going to be easy, because my fear is that if the traditional behemoths and Leviathians in our society, PDP and APC, see that this is becoming a reality, they might infiltrate. Hence, I say it has to be core obedience. I know a few of them who waver, who were approached by people of the old parties with money and everything, and they remained resolute. They're in this state. I applaud them. I hosted a few of them yesterday, and I thank them for their resilience, and I urge them to continue. That they're young. They're very young. When they see people like us who are in our 70s joining them in this fight, they take solace, and they were quite happy after our meeting yesterday.
Nonetheless, there are still some people within the established political parties, the PDP, the APC, and wherever you might find them, who are dissatisfied with the status quo, and as such are obedient at heart. How much home will these people still find in the burgeoning Labour Party?
You cannot stop people joining the Labour Party. You cannot stop people becoming obedient. But we have a body in this group, the Big Tent. I will look at these things. We studied them, and I don't think I'll say much about that, but you cannot stop people from joining the Labour Party or becoming obedient. But once you become a member, we have a philosophy. We intend to have seminars. Let people know that it is their choice. Money is ephemeral. Somebody who was supposed to be a member of Labour Party in this dispensation ditched Labour Party during the governorship election. He didn't have a bicycle, but today he has a car. So you can't, it's a matter of integrity. If you lack that integrity, then you can't belong to the Labour Party that we're trying to build. If you lack integrity, you can't be obedient. We know them, so we'll screen them. They may remain members, but they will not be, what do you call it? No, they will be active, but they will not be in the deciding cadre of the Labour Party. No, we will stop it. How? I will not tell you, but we'll do our best.
You talked about certain things that in your estimation, Labour Party didn't do well. You talked about not making extra effort at ensuring that you grain in the minds of obedience the need to support Labour Party as a plausible way to ensure that Mr. P2B succeeds. If there is an opportunity to do things all over, what are those areas besides this that you think you might just have to do different?
As soon as Labour Party became vibrant, acceptable in the minds of people of other parties found it a veritable vehicle to achieve certain objectives. They had expectations, personal expectations. You understand? Politics as usual, a contest of interest. They would always be there. There are people who are unchangeable. I said it's not going to be easy, but let us not discuss strategy now. Let us start talking to people. When we meet, we can sieve the wheat from the shaft, and then we begin to move forward. Those who will pilot the affairs of Labour Party will be core members of Obidients, and will be people who are committed to the desired change. That change that is going to bring about. If Nigeria does not rise, Africa will not rise. So we're just going to waste time. Africa is looking up to Nigeria, but because of the charlatans in government and nepotic approach to governance, we can never move forward. We have to change the narrative. Until we do that, Nigeria will remain down, and consequently, Africa will remain down. If you love Africa, you must make sure that Nigeria changes. And if Nigeria changes, Bob's your uncle.
One of your prayers in court is that this election be annulled, since it fell short of the expected standard and stipulated rules on the part of the electoral body INEC. From what you've seen before, during and after this election, do you think that Mr. P2B, if this election is reconducted, will be able to pull off the feat he achieved, or even better his exploits of February 25th?
Let me change that to your question. We're not asking for the election to be annulled, absolutely. We say we won the election. INEC should do the needful. Labour Party won this election. The mutilation you see all over the place, add them up. In Lagos, they gave Labour Party 662 or 82,000 votes, and APC 600, just 10,000 votes. No, sir. Labour Party won by over 600,000 votes. The difference between Labour Party votes and the APC vote was 600,000. We have the facts. Similarly, in Plateau State, Labour Party had about 1.2 million votes. But in the end, what did they give us? 300 and something thousand votes? River State, I'm sure you have heard about River State. The mutilation and the changes. If we add them up, obviously, Labour Party's votes will be more than that of that one that was ascribed to Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I tell you something, as soon as you go and correct Lagos votes, you remove the ones they gave him and add it to Labour Party, consequently, the votes ascribed to the APC candidate will be reduced. So it's not going to be difficult. If INEC will be honest in their presentation of the facts, and most importantly, if the judiciary will have the courage, and I repeat, the courage to do the right thing. I'm very worried about the judiciary in this country. It has never been like this. Never. Where it's like you can buy judgment. It's sad. But they must show courage, and we expect them to show courage this time, because the future of their children is involved.
It's an immense delight getting your perspective on this and having these conversations with you. As always, immeasurable thanks to you, Pa Delly, for giving us your time.
We look forward to P2B becoming the president come May 29th. And let me tell you something, P2B will succeed. And if he doesn't, we'll go to the streets and march against him. But that won't be necessary, because I am 100% certain that his vision for Nigeria, nay, his vision for Africa, will be realized.